Stay tuned. There's a gewaldige podcast. Rabbi Steve Geller does a gewaldige Zach, and that'll be coming out this week. Torah Giants on Chumash. Welcome to the weekly piece on the Parsha from Torah Giants on Chumash, written by Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Gimel. Sit back and enjoy.
Arami Oveid Avi, an Armenian, tried to kill our father.
Yes, that's how we translate it, but the literal meaning is, our father was a wandering Armenian.
Welcome to Torah Giants on Chumash. I'm Steve Geller. I know you all have questions. Let's start from the beginning. This week in our Parsha, Va'anisa va'amarta lifnei Hashem Elokecha, and you shall proclaim and say before Hashem your God, Arami Oveid Avi, a wandering Aramean was my father. Then he went down to Egypt, and he lived there with a tiny community, and there he became a great nation, powerful and numerous. This translation is actually the most common one used today and is reflected in the commentaries of the Ibn Israel, who says the word Oveid is an intransitive verb. If Aramean referred to Lavan, then the pasuk should have read Ma'avid or Mi'avid. Furthermore, what reason would the pasuk have had for saying Lavan sought to destroy my father and he went down to Egypt? Lavan did not cause Yaakov to go to Egypt. It therefore appears to me that the term Aramean refers to Yaakov. And the Sforno says, my father Yaakov, who was for a while a wandering lost person without a home of his own, was not at the time able to establish a nation deserving or fit to inherit this land. These and other commentators disagree with the translation that says Lavan sought to destroy my father Yaakov. But now we must understand what this phrase is doing in the Haggadah. Apparently, the authors of this text were praising Hashem for protecting Yaakov from his earliest enemy and bringing his family to Egypt for the ultimate goal of taking us out of Egypt to receive the Torah and conquer Eretz Yisrael. The question is, if this is so, why was Esav's bitterness left out of the Haggadah entirely? He was Yaakov's first and fiercest enemy, and the reason Yaakov went to Lavan to begin with. So let's just review all this for a moment. The literal translation, Arami Oveid Avi, was changed from its literal meaning of a wandering Armenian was my father to the Haggadah's an Armenian tried to kill my father. Both the Ibn Ezra and Sforno explain ours to be the actual literal translation, not the one in the Haggadah. And then we asked, if it were talking about the person who tried to kill Yaakov, why mention Lavan and not Esav, whose threat drove Yaakov to Lavan in the first place? You with me so far? Rav Yisachar Dov Rubin quotes a response from Rav Kasriel Orbach, who explains all of it perfectly. The worst type of hatred, sinas chinam, is one that has no reason or cause. Since it has no real cause, it can never end. Esav's hatred was based on Yaakov getting their father's brachos. Esav obviously had no interest in the spiritual benefits of Yitzchak's brachos. It was losing more of the material wealth that he was concerned about. And that's likely why, when they met after many years of separation, Esav, with an entire army with him, felt he wound up greater, mightier, and wealthier than his brother. And so he kissed him. His hatred evaporated, and when hatred wanes, it may ultimately cease. Perhaps that will happen in the end of times. But regarding Lavan's hatred, it had no cause whatsoever. Yaakov was his son-in-law and the father of his grandchildren. But even more than that, Yaakov made Lavan incredibly wealthy. So the very thing that cooled Esav's hatred, material wealth, which the hatred was originally based on, had no effect on Lavan, because Lavan's hatred has no cause. It's only due to age-old anti-Semitism. And that is why the Haggadah referred to Lavan as the best example of a classic anti-Semite, whose destructive sinas chinam does the most and worst damage, and whose examples will be experienced by Jews through the millennia. This is such a beautiful insight, but we really have to mine it for all it's worth. And for that, we're all once again fortunate to have our Rav Eytan Feiner Shlita, to share his amazing depth and color.
It's a pleasure, as always, to sit together with Reb Steve in this Choshev Chevron, this wonderful chizuk and platform for Habatzas HaTorah, Torah Giants and Chumash. What a treat. And of course, a great piece this week by Rav Kasriel Orbach quoted by the Talei Oros, the difference between Esav versus Lavan. And you heard it beautifully expressed. Ayadei Rav Steve Geller in the podcast. But in the end of the day, it's such an important yesod. It's a yesod that Rabbeinu B'Chaim, one of the Gedolei Rishonim, points out, There's a difference between a sonei and an oyev. So Rav Orbach makes the distinction between sinas chinam versus a sinner that's tuluya b'davar. Rabbeinu Bachai says the difference between a sonei and an oyev is a sonei. For example, Rishon Rechai, who told us famously that Alocha hi bi'adua Esav sonei es Yaakov. That's it. There's a hatred from time immemorial, and it's going to last until the end of time, until Achros Hayomim. But you know what? There are times throughout history we can make peace. Perhaps a tentative peace. Might be only temporary, transient in nature, but in the end of the day, there are moments in history that you could make peace with the sonei. It's totally bedavar. You could be masalik, you could remove the sibas hasina, and mamela, you could get along with them. And we've seen history really prove that. But when it comes to Yishmael, for example, that Rabbeinu Bachai deems he is an oyev. What's the difference in oyev is far worse than a sonei. Oyev is in that category of Rabbeinu Bachai sinas chinam. He just hates you because he hates you. That's it. That's anti-Semitism. That's the Gemara in Shabbos Pei Tesam Aleph, that it's called Sinai, the Gemara says, because Yoda Sina La'akam Alav. You don't know anything about the Jewish people, but they got the Torah. They're the Yamanuchar, the Yamasagula. We hate them already. That's it. We just hate them. That's an oyev. They just hate us for no particular reason, and thus, writes Rabbeinu Bachai, it's called Oyev, Aleph, Vav, Yud, Vez, the letters of Avoy, Oy Avoy. They just want you to scream out in pain. They just want to kill you because they want to kill you for no particular reason. That was a Lavan, and as his name clearly indicates, what does he Lavan? Puts on a facade of friendship, puts on a facade of what? Of love and of whiteness. He's pure, pristine. He means well as the Shem Shamayim. It's all a facade. Inside, what does he want you to do? He just wants you to scream. Oy Avoy. That's an Oyev. That's a sinas chinam. That's the stark contrast between a Lavan versus an Esav. And that we see play out so many points in our history, and Befrand, especially Bizwanenu, people that just want to kill the Jews, anti-Semitism. They don't know anything about Zionism. They don't know anything about Eretz Yisrael. And they mix it. In the end of the day, what is it all about? It's about Jew hatred. It was Jerry Seinfeld who just said recently at Duke University, all the people are saying free Palestine. What are they saying? We hate the Jews. We want to kill the Jews. That's what they're saying. He says you're the same as the Ku Klux Klan, but they were much better. Because they said, we don't like the blacks, we don't like the Jews, we want to kill them. At least be open and honest. To love them, that's exactly the worst thing. Arami Oveid Avi. You're my son-in-law. Come here, let's get along. You can marry my daughters. In the end of the day, as the Beis HaLevi told us, worse than Esav is when he acts like Achi. Well, Lavan, that is their entire facade. Their whole persona is, no, inside they just want to kill the Jews. That's it, for no particular reason. Those are the worst of the worst. And thus, writes the Rokeach and his Perush on the Godos of Pesach. Why do we bring from this week's Parasha, Parshas Bikurim, the same way the Mefarshim will point out, we go to history, we're being Makir Tov. We don't want to be in a Kafay Tov. We want to express overwhelming sense and debt of gratitude to the Almighty above. So we're going to be Marachim and go back to Lavan. So we discussed the question, why not go back all the way to Esav? We explained it. It's right to the Rokech. You know why we bring it into the Godesh Pesach as well? Because this is the source of all the Mitzrayims and all the Gullahs. In the end of the day, Mitzrayim. Why do we bring Shabbat? No particular reason. We just hate the Jews. That's it. They're all going to work for us. The worst of the Golios. Where does it emanate from? Not from the hatred of Esav versus Yaakov. It emanates from the hatred of Lavan to Yaakov. Come into my midst and I'm going to deceive you. I'm going to pull out every measure of duplicity imaginable and conceivable. I want to fool you. I want to take your money, and indeed I want to take your lives. I don't want any Jews around in the world. Those are the worst. That's an Aschinam. That's an Oyev, Oy Va'avai, and Oy Va'avai Rachamanu Litzlan. Save us for these Rishon Gemurim. Bring us where we all belong, Emet Hashem, to Yerushalayim Kodesh with Mashiach Tzidkenu. All those Chashua listeners, be Marbitz Torah with this amazing platform. Have a Gevaldige Lichtige Shabbos.
As with every lesson from our Holy Torah, this is one we can truly internalize and let it help mold our own personalities and destinies. Look at the anger in the world today, and look at the opportunities that exist for us to improve our world by helping eliminate the hatred that only damages our Jewish families and communities. And in order to do that the best way possible, we have someone who wants to explain it all.
My fellow Americans, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Torah Giants YouTube channel, and share this video everywhere. Truth Social, emails, texts. Let's get it out there. We're going to make Torah Giants great, make each other great, and take Torah learning to another level. Believe me, together we'll do something incredible. Thank you.
Yaakov made Lavan wealthy. Yosef made
And
Mitzrayim
there's
wealthy.
no gratitude whatsoever.
No
That's it.
gratitude. The Jews made Germany wealthy, the Portugal, Spain, and then once they were kicked out, once we're kicked out, you never heard from these countries
And they
again.
suffer the consequences if they would just sit back, rest, lounge. The Jews are doing nothing to harm them. We're only benefiting them. We're giving them the scientists. Look at the list of Nobel Peace Prizes.
Right.
We're giving them benefits on so many fronts. And yet what? There's no gratitude at all. And when there's no gratitude, that's when a society falls by the wayside. Jews were not bothering anyone. It's just an intrinsic innate hatred.